Well, Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm great, Juan. How are you and all our friends in Build IT World doing today? I'm so excited to join you.
I am excited to have you. For everyone here today at Build It Live's another session of our trailers leading up to our Build It Live event, July 27th through 29th. It is such an honor to have you with us today, Michelle. And I can't say, obviously it's really exciting anytime we get together and have a lot of fun because today we get to talk about how we elevate MSPs.
I love it. There's nothing I love more than that. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, my friend.
Well, I am too. And I will say this, you have a new title for Cisco, which is new, and it is Provider Elevate Leader for the Global Partner Organization. Tell me a little bit about that title, Michelle.
Yeah, no, it's great. Actually, it's very unique. It is a an interesting new title because this is an interesting new role that has not conventionally occurred at Cisco. So we have created our own community for managed service providers around the world, and that is called our Elevate community. And it's really looking and strategically focused on what publicly may be considered the long tail, or I would affectionately refer to it as the small to medium business managed service providers that exists in our ecosystem. Now, Cisco has been, an amazing company for 38 years of really strong partnerships, but now more than ever, we want to double down on the opportunity to partner with managed service providers and the SMB space. I love our global channel chief, Oliver Tusick, said, small is big, and meaning that there's big opportunities, big synergies, and big place for us to really partner, grow, and elevate each other's businesses. And I think that's where we really want to lean in and listen, learn, and help educate just as much as we are reciprocally listening to allow our partners to really just develop, grow, and understand a lot of the investment that Cisco has made. I mean, we are a big company. There's like 73,000 of my closest friends and family employees around the world, and we work really hard to help our partners, but we want to help simplify that process. We want to make it easier to do business with Cisco. We want to make sure that you understand the brand awareness of the investments we've made into companies you may know and love, like Meraki and Duo and Umbrella, and a lot of the traditional MSP brands that have now become a part of our Cisco family. So that's the title, that's the role, and really it's just to help our partners elevate.
And I love that. I love that segue. Obviously, you guys have been doing such a great job over at Cisco for many years, giving back to the MSP community. And it's really a testament to Cisco really moving the channel forward in regards to new ways to be effective and ways to help others succeed. And the Together We Elevate tagline was amazing when I heard it. And I think that today, as we talk about, the webinar and giving MSPs tips to be successful, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that. But back to what you said, giving back to the community. You guys are doing something special today as well, and that is giving out a really cool registration code for
Yes.
Build It Live attendees for a discount. And that discount code is totally rad 200. For those of you that are trying to come and see us over at Build It, which I promise is going to be an amazing event for those
Don't want
MSPs
to
that are
miss
coming,
this.
totally
Don't want
rad 200. I missed the shades though. I should have had the shades.
Oh, I actually have a pair of your shades. I want the headphones because I think they're amazing. So I'll just say that.
Michelle, I like to start off the show, and generally the way I like to start it off is I usually have a trivia question. And,
Mhm.
one of the trivia questions that, I've had on the previous shows has stumped many people. But the way this works is two lucky people that are here with us today. For all of you, I see you out there, welcome. Two people that answer the trivia question right will get a set of free tickets. So, Michelle, what is that trivia question that you have today?
Well, we recently launched what we are calling our Cisco Partner Journeys, and it is led by our new mascot. So, the question we have for anyone listening is, do you know the name of the new Cisco Journey mascot for Managed Service Providers? And for like bonus points, do you know what he's dressed like and why? You can just know what he's dressed like or just his name. But
The
that's really
name of
part
your
of
mascot.
it.
I like it. What is the name of the mascot? That's going to be really fun.
Okay,
I'm
good.
interested to know myself because I don't know this answer, so this will be really fun.
All
And
right.
bonus,
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
I,
Not
I
giving
hope
it
to
away.
God, like, what is he wearing? Like, that just seems like an interesting talk track. Like, where are we going with that, Michelle?
I will tell you this. So, buddy, so if you've never created a mascot before, which I have never had the great privilege prior to this experience, you look at companies like Arctic Wolf or Salesforce that has probably 10 or 12 mascots at this point. I think about the paperclip back in the day. And so there's all these
Flippy.
different versions. Yes, right. So everybody kind of had a mascot. And that was something that we were missing from our ecosystem and our community, just something fun, something that can help our partners in their journey. Because we're all starting at different ages and stages, whether you're a new MSP or you've been around doing this for quite some time, or you maybe you were a traditional VAR who now wants to redefine themselves as an MSP or an MSSP for that matter. So as we went through all the iterations, our mountain background is like kind of really depicting of our provider elevate program. There's three little mountains for the select, premier, and gold, and so that helped inspire our future state. This person, this entity, which I won't tell you the name yet, is going to be sort of the guide on your journey. And I kind of affectionately refer to them as our Sherpa, helping you climb those mountains and get you to that next level of elevation in our journey. So,
Nice.
clue.
You know, it's interesting, Michelle. You know, you guys, I didn't know that there was so much history. You know, I've been in IT for 28 plus years now, and I've known Cisco
We
my
started
entire
at
life.
10.
Yeah, I was 10. I wish I was 10. I'd be like, I would be, I'd be a lot younger than I am right now. But that being said, you know, Cisco has an interesting story. And I think that before we get started on some of the tips and tricks for MSPs, it was interesting for me to find out that there's actually an origin story behind Cisco. I never knew it. I mean, I remember going for my CCNA back in the day, and I never knew the origin story. So, would you take a second just to tell that story? Because I think it'd be really compelling for those that may not know it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, of course. So there might be some creative liberties, but this is the story as I learned it when I was in the Global Academy for Cisco about 2005 is when I began my career and my embarkment into the world of Cisco. I was in a program that they called the ASR ASE program, and that program was really taken to take people that were right out of college at varying ages of their career. Could have been their MBA later in life, it could have been their undergrad and their early 20s, and you had a year of training, the history of Cisco, sales motions, engineering, getting your CCSE and CCDA certifications to become a Cisco certified engineer. And at the end of that journey, you could choose if you wanted to go into sales or engineering. So that was my path. And one of my favorite stories is that Cisco began as a love story, which many people don't know. And so years ago, there was a couple who was the original founders of this company named Sandy Lerner and Len Bozak. And they went to college and worked at Stanford University. And they worked in two disparate buildings, but they were madly in love and they wanted to speak to each other. So they created the way for the two independent protocols to continue to talk to each other in our routing and switching as we know it today, as it's evolved to be. And they named their little company when they formed it Cisco because it was California after San Francisco. And so that was sort of the start. It all began with a love story, as
How
every
cute
good
is
story
that?
should.
As every good story should. And I think we had to tell that because I actually never knew that. That was so
Yeah.
cool when I heard it the first time. I was like, I was today years old when I learned the love story of Cisco. I remember the moment I was like, wow, I had an epiphany. So it was really great for you to tell. Hopefully our audience loves that story as well as much as I do. And it's really interesting. So let's dive into some of the things we want to talk about today, Michelle. Obviously, great stuff already, but let's talk about the changes in business and also some of the shifts in the demographics that we're seeing. You know, obviously today we want to empower MSPs to be successful, but I think we have to kind of understand where we're at. So, what are your thoughts on some of that?
Yeah, no, great question. So I remember being, and you mentioned CompTIA, and I'm a huge fan of their community as well. I actually used to chair their Advancing Women in Technology group, and was one of the original founders of it. So CompTIA does incredible things for all of our members, whether you're a vendor, distributor, a partner of any sort. They're one of the largest nonprofit IT associations in the world. And Todd Thibodeau, who is their CEO, was on main stage doing their opening keynote at one of their events about a few years ago. And he said, in the next 7 years, 75% of the workforce will be millennials.
Hmm.
And now that has also adopted and quickly evolved, including Gen Z and the next generation of employers and employees. Now, what he didn't predict, which none of us could have predicted, was also COVID and the rapid acceleration where every company had to pause and reimagine and rethink their people, their process, their technology. And not to mention and cue the Great Resignation, which spun up from there as well.
Right.
But the demographic shift was very eye opening without all of that other acceleration even being discussed. What was most interesting and most important, and many of you, I mean, I am a stepmother to two daughters who are 25 and 22, and I have two children that are 8 and 6. And so that's a bit of a chasm, but I can tell you that I am a Genial. The last year of Gen X, first year of Millennial. And the
Yeah.
way that I was born, I grew up with the birth of Atari, and I didn't have a computer in my house, but I used one at school to play Oregon Trail and where in the world is Carmen San Diego and to code.
Yes.
And then I moved on to having a beeper in high school and then a cell phone. And I sort of saw the evolution of technology as it came to be, where my stepdaughters, the way they communicate is all through text or Slack
Right.
or other ways of they don't believe in email. They don't think they need to show up in an office to do their job. It doesn't happen that way. Even in school, they were one of the first classes due to COVID to
Yeah.
begin online education in a school and academia where that didn't happen because
Right.
everybody had to rethink how they incorporated technology to keep afloat and to keep the momentum and keep going. And then you look at my little ones, and they're of the nature where they literally will talk to an AI robot and ask Alexa to play them a lullaby or to read them a bedtime story. And so they're born into technology, and the way they communicate, the way they process is completely different from one generation to the next. So, as more of them shift into your workforce, whether you're a small team or a large vendor or anything in between, you're going to see a shift in demographics, a shift in the culture of your business and of your customers. And so,
Right.
you have to be cognizant of how you're meeting them where they are. And a great example of that would be social media, like we are
Yeah.
doing today, right, with this LinkedIn Live.
100%.
A really interesting stat, just to wrap up that thought, was IDC came out with a quote and a research that said 75%, oh no, sorry, it was 85% of B2B C-level executives and vice presidents look for up to 5 pieces of content before they even speak to a salesperson.
Yep.
We live in an independent research society. And that's where I think during COVID, especially, the lines of B2C, business to consumer, and
Yep.
B2B, business to business, really blurred because my
Yeah.
personal life was very easy. And I'd ask anyone in the audience and like drop it in the comments. How many of you go on Open Table or Yelp before you book a dinner
Absolutely.
reservation?
Yep. Yep.
How many of you read the star reviews on Amazon before you make a purchase? How many of you go on Kelly Blue Book and look at the make, model, specs, Carfax, see if that
Mhm.
car was ever in an accident before you even walk into the dealership, before he gives you a good deal? You know, as an informed buyer, everything you need to know about that company, the products, the customer reactions, the experience, the rating. So we are much more informed consumers than we've ever been in our history. And now we have that same expectation for businesses that you have
Yep.
to drive that level of education and awareness. And so I mentioned that stat, 5 pieces of content. And you might be asking, Well, what are they looking for? And that's pretty simple. They're looking for webinars like this.
Yeah.
They're looking for infographics, third party analyst reports, PowerPoint presentations, at a glance documents, podcasts, and many different ways where they can self educate in order to make an informed decision to do business with somebody they trust. Because the
Yeah.
old adage, people buy from people they like, is still very true today.
Oh, 100%. For so long, I've said, the millennial market space was the next best place to be, right? And I think that, managed services, as they start to look down the road at who the future buyer is very important. Like you have to be paying attention to the way they buy, how they buy, the way they got to the way they made the business decisions. There are so many different products in the ecosystem today because they grew up with them just the same way you mentioned early on. I love the fact when you said Oregon Trail, I actually had to stop for a minute there and be like, did she say Oregon Trail?
Bringing back some good memories. You have dysentery, you've lost two oxen. Like, it was very classic.
Or Atari. Like I missed the Atari with the little joystick, right?
Oh gosh, the good old days.
And
Yes.
so now
I
we
have to
have
tell
like,
my children there was a time where we had to wait all week long until a Saturday morning for a cartoon. We couldn't just live stream it. They're like,
oh
oh,
no.
the horror.
And they were only on for a little while, right? So it was like, okay, what do you do after the first 4 hours? It's like, all right, go outside and play.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And I think that shift in the demographics kind of plays out to the way that you have to present your products. And I think, Michelle, there's been this huge shift, and I talked about it in 2015 as this X as a service thing, you know, moving toward everything as a service, and I mean everything, whether you're a product, process, procedure, programming, whatever it is. What are your thoughts on that?
That's exactly where we are going as a company with Cisco, of course. And you'll see that not only with us, but HPE, Dell, IBM, Lenovo, everybody is moving to subscription consumption.
Yeah,
Everyone's moving to a model of sticky. And I like to ask this a lot. I say, how many people used to have a stationary bike that they hung clothes on? And you're like, probably most people in the room, an elliptical stationary bike, something like that, that really didn't serve a purpose other than clothesline. And then Peloton came around,
right,
and it's expensive, and there's a monthly subscription, and yet I have one sitting upstairs and I use it almost daily, and there's this cult following of people that pay a monthly subscription just like Netflix or Amazon Prime to be a part of something that drives value, that they
right,
deem worthy of value. And maybe it's because of the experience, or maybe it's because you're part of a community, or maybe it's because they take a vested interest and make you feel valued and reach out to you
yeah,
often, or curate content that makes you satisfied. So whatever the reason is, I would be happy to let my Netflix subscription ride forever, where I was very dissatisfied with my Time Warner cable experience as a comparison. And
right,
you have to think that its subscriptions are the way of the future. We're moving as a society towards many monthly installments over time until
mhm,
forever, which
yep,
as an MSP can be really great when you wake up and you're getting money that's happening every day, regardless of you having sold anything that morning yet. And
right,
that's the benefit of the stickiness with that customer, where you can tell them about other solutions or newer solutions, or help guide them on what's important, like security or other
yeah,
things when there's a cyber attack once every 39 seconds during the pandemic. How can we how can we help people, guide them on what's important right now? And that pivots, right? Every 6 months or so, you see something that's really important. And that's where I feel managed service providers are the virtual CIOs of their
yeah,
customers, right?
right.
They are the Sherpas guiding them on their journey as well.
It's interesting. I talk a lot about this as well. And I think that for managed services providers that are actually out there that are thinking about what's in it for me, it's providing tomorrow's technology today, right? You're giving your customer what they really want, which is productivity for a cost that they can afford over time, right? And that's where I think, to your point with the stickiness, is it really engages them and your customer to stay around, because it's like, man, they gave me the ability to operate my business now when I need it, like in the pandemic, for a cost that I can afford over time. And I think that that's the biggest thing when people were thinking about why would I do that? is really it's empowering the customer to be successful. Plus, you get paid, depending on how you do it, you get paid overtime as well. You continue to keep that cadence with them, and you allow them to, add in different pieces of technology, like you said, cybersecurity. And so, that's one of the big topics, over the last, a month that we've been doing these webinars is cybersecurity. And I'd be interested to hear, what is Cisco doing on the cybersecurity front, Michelle?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And I often ask people if they know about Talos. Talos is the center of all of our security offerings. It is our threat detection, prevention, intervention, education, especially when things in the world happen, like the Russian invasion in Ukraine. We are on the pulse of keeping the world safe and really just understanding what those cyber threat vectors are and how people can be aware and informed. But more than that, we've also made significant partnerships with some of the best thought leaders around. We had an amazing presentation. It was a 2-day virtual event, our first ever for managed service providers. We had 55 thought leaders and 22 live sessions,
Wow.
all mostly MSP leaders. We had maybe a few Cisco people, and we had a library of content, and you can still access that. I can send that link out to your viewers if they're interested in it. We have a
Absolutely.
self-assessment, so you can see where you stack rank against your peers and competitors, also in cybersecurity and other areas of the business and marketing, etc. But we in that session we had about 4 different cybersecurity panels. And it was really important for us to have a showcase of those commentary and those speakers. So we had Wes Spencer at the time, ConnectWise's CISO. We had Ryan Weeks, Dato's CISO, come together with Andrew Morgan of the Cyber Call, and Phyllis Lee, who is the Center for Security Prevention and Detections director, talk about a lot of great subjects from tabletop sessions, incident response. You've been breached. What happens next?
Yeah.
And we partnered with Canalys to really understand our audience, right? Looking at managed service providers and their customers, we know that Immortal, it's not if, but when. But we
Yeah.
wanted to know how prepared our partners were in this effort. And so, what we learned is that half of them have conducted tabletop sessions, the other
Yeah.
half have not. Half of them have security insurance, the other half do not. And so, with things like Duo, which can offer multi-factor authentication,
Right.
is a requirement for MSPs. And we actually offer 100 free licenses of Duo just to get started, just to make sure that they can get qualified for cybersecurity insurance and get moving, sort of a try and buy experience, because we're that confident that we can offer you the right products to help you drive outcomes for your own business and for your customers. So that's one example. We've also partnered with people like Gary Pica, and we have a
Mhm.
great offer where we pay for 2 months of his Security Formula One training for partners. And it bleeds in a little bit of Gary's work and Cisco's security trainings coming together to help our partners really understand the ecosystem right now and help defend themselves and their customers against some of these threats. And we have to be very, very conscious of how skillful cyber criminals became during this time. They use their old secret tactics that they've always used, like phishing scams, which were the number one way they breached in, and they preyed upon people's vulnerabilities. The fact that prior to COVID, 55% of employers did not allow their employees to work from home. And then overnight, over a weekend, that all changed where we cobbled together hardware and solutions to bring people back into this environment to really help them drive conversations in business. And security became a threat. And now, it would say, oh, your package has been delayed due to COVID. Click here to learn more. Who did not have a package delayed due to COVID? We all did, right? So it was an easy way to get in. And now it may say something like, would you like to help family in Ukraine sponsor an Airbnb, or click to learn more?
Exactly.
And so they prey upon whatever's the latest and greatest information. There was a ransomware attack every 14 seconds, and this cost an average MSP or partner $1 million for every cyber attack. which is a staggering amount of money, which continues to grow with no signs of slowing down. So we've made all of these partnerships, we've had all of these webinars and events, and we're happy to share all of that content. We've kept it up for a year because we think it's that critical. And we also have plans to work with CompTIA and help sponsor their ISO. So that's in the works, and we're really excited to continue to work with all of the partners because this is not an independent issue. We are stronger together. We truly believe that, and we need to help one another and our partners to overcome those challenges.
Well, I love what you're saying. As I'm having a coughing fit over here,
I'm so sorry. I hate when that happens. I hope you feel better.
no, no, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I love what you're saying, and I think to your point, as we start to move forward, security has to be forefront. And I love the fact that you're looking to give out some of those resources because we'll share those in the chat with everybody that's here today. Because I think that everyone has an opportunity to up their security game. None of us are doing it perfectly, right? And I think that in the MSP community, the more information we share with our customers and the more that we give back, the more that we educate, the more that we can benefit in doing the right thing. And I want to say thanks to you guys for doing that because I think it's really important. And I thank you for sharing those resources because that's great. But let's talk about our trivia question real quick. So, our trivia question for today, Michelle, what is it real quick as we pause for the halfway point?
What is the new Cisco MSP mascot's name?
That's an interesting one. I don't know his name at all. I'm trying to think back, like Q*bert's coming to mind, and we had to guess an elevated alligator. I love that.
I do like it. It's a good design. Alligators could be a little aggressive though, so I don't know.
Yeah, that might be
I do like
a little
Florida
bit on the dicey side.
though.
So you guys put your information in the chat. What do you think? What's the mascot's name? And for bonus points, what are the bonus points, Michelle?
Well, I might have given a sneak peek of this, but if you can tell us how this mascot is dressed, that would be your bonus. And I see a lot of participation in comments. I'm reading all of them. So thank you for bringing those comments up. Let's keep this fun and interactive. So I love seeing that. Thanks so much
I
for
love
jumping.
comments too. I love the elevated alligator. I think Andrew's onto something.
I do. I think it's clever. It is very Floridian. Awesome.
So
Thanks.
I got one more question, and I'm thinking, as we started to see the shift in the demographic, understanding the new go-to-market strategies, realizing that cybersecurity is a top talk track and something that we should be focusing on. One of the big things out there, and Michelle, I think you see this as well as I do, you know, is this whole talk around the Great Resignation. I think that there's a lot of conversation around what that means and some of the meaningful ways that we can kind of, just keep talking about it because I think everyone's advice around it because I think everyone's experiencing those challenges. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are you guys thinking around the Great Resignation and what are you guys doing?
No, that's a great. One of the things that I think is, I mean, it's very varied between the Great Resignation and between also looking at just mergers and acquisitions and people getting bought up and vendors and the career changes. I mean, like somebody I was talking to the other day said they just drink their tea and watch as they open LinkedIn every morning and see like this reshuffling every day of person A going to B, C, D, E, and companies going acquired here and coming into there. And so it is kind of a great shakeup of everything. And I read something the other day that's very staggering. It said if you are not resigning during the Great Resignation, you're leaving a 7% job promotion on the table because people are
Wow.
offering more money. It is getting very competitive out there. So here's what we know. If you lose top talent, that's hard. You have to onboard, you have to educate, you have to train. It takes 6 months to find the bathroom, right? We all know it's really hard to get new talent back up and running quickly. So you want to keep the people you have. And part of that, and I have some theories actually that go into this. I have a team that is global, and for most of COVID, when I even rejoined, and I'm a boomerang to Cisco. I was at Cisco for about 13 years. I left
Wow.
shy of 13 years, and I was gone for about 5 years, and I just came back in June. So we're approaching my 14th year or my first year back, if you will. And
Nice.
what I will say is coming back in COVID is very different than when I started at Cisco. And I would be in the office and we'd go for lunch together and we'd talk at the water cooler. And even if it was a telecommuting society at some points where it was 3 days in and 2 days out, Adam might have gotten
Uh-oh.
it.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if you want to say if he's got it yet or not, but I'm just saying you might be
We'll
close.
wait. We'll wait.
So what I would say is I'd look at somebody on my team like Mesa or Rachel, who I didn't get the benefit of meeting them in person until we traveled to an event together. And then I got to know who they really are, because this, as great as this is not in person. And
No.
I always say jokingly that most business happens on a cocktail napkin bar at the hotel lobby bar at 2 in the morning, because that's when you're like in vino and verde, in wine there's truth, and you're having
Yeah.
real conversations and you're building authentic, genuine relationships with your partners and your vendors and your friends, and your partners become your friends. And it's no different to me than the old way of like going, out to dinner or playing golf or taking your clients out to a sporting event, except now you're doing it at scale with thousands of partners around the world at community events and peer groups and associations. And so for me, there's this element of, and that's how we do it at Cisco, but also how our partners are going to Chamber of Commerce meetings where small businesses show up and they're meeting their people in their fellowship, in their communities. And that's how you build and bridge those relationships. So I think that, when you look at the Great Resignation and you look at people who start, it's not like when my mom or my aunties and uncles, or even I'm on the precipice of this, where I would work for a company for 13, 14 years. And obviously it's one of the best places in the world to work because I came back. But the idea that you would have flexibility, right? That you would support maternity leave, medical leave, the idea that I feel heard, I feel valued. Because I used to have this conversation when I chaired a lot of women's communities. I've sat on the board of CRN's Women of the Channel. I'm a part of the Alliance of Channel Women. I've started a local chapter here. I sat on Comtias. And I'm looking at just that because I know when you are not feeling included, which some people
Yep.
feel, like whether you're a woman or a minority, or you're just a millennial who has never met a colleague and they don't feel like, can I ask them a question via WebEx? Is that the same way I want to approach this? So how do you make people feel heard and included when you're not in the room with them, when you're not in an office with them? And so it's really important to have that time to build that personal relationship, to ask them questions about who they are and what their aspirations are and what are their 3 to 5 year plans. And we do a few really great things at Cisco. One of the things we started during COVID was a day for me. And I had one on Monday. And you might say, what's a day for me? It's just that. It's a day for you off, just because, no national holidays, just to give you some time back, a mental health break. And I can't tell you how valuable those spontaneous days for me can be. People go play golf, they spend times with their loved ones, they go read a book, they go to the spa, whatever it is that they wouldn't do and I'll tell you, having 2 small children, I don't rest when I'm home with my kids. It's
Yeah.
always go, go, go. So having a day just for you, not on a national holiday, is really nice. And it's something that's anybody can do that. You can do a birthday PTO, or we do that as well. One of the things that I think is really clever are groups. And like maybe if you're a small SP, you have 8 people, you're an 8-person shop, you wear a lot of hats, you can maybe do a little bit more team building activities. Maybe you do something volunteering, maybe you build a Habitat for Humanity home together, because philanthropy really is meaningful. And you want to work for a company that you feel is altruistic and doing the right thing and giving back, especially if you're localized in a certain geography
Yep.
and you want to give back to that community, right? So I think there's so many different options virtually. During COVID, especially, we did a lot of wine tastings or whiskey tastings or paint and sip parties. I've done that with groups and I've done that with partners. And that's a lot of fun. And whether you're in person or not, sometimes, if you look at the amount of events that happen, there's 155 technology events that happen every year. That's
Yes.
time consuming, that's cost prohibitive, that's hard to get to all those different places. So for companies that are like Cisco and we're a vendor and maybe we go or we send people to go, but if you're an 8-person shop, you can hardly show up to that many things and still do your day job, right? So you have a few groups, and the goal for us at Cisco is we want to be we want to be everywhere our MSPs are. We want to show up, sponsor, support, listen, learn, help, and we want to do that with the teams that matter to us so we can also come together and have dinners and feel like we get to know each other too. So it's really a mutually beneficial way for us to get to know each other, our teams, our partners, and to drive that conversation. So it's the little things that I think matter the most: recognition, celebrating people's wins, sharing those best practices with your team, and making people feel Oprah was a guest speaker on our opening keynote yesterday, which is still like I'm in awe of her because I love her so much. But she said at the end of every interview, regardless if it was President Barack Obama or Beyonce or a serial killer who had murdered somebody, everybody would look to her at the end and say, after 3,500 interviews, did I do okay? And she said what she learned is at the end of the day, everybody has three things in mind. And those things are: did you see me? Did you hear me? And did what I say matters? That's probably the
That's
most powerful
powerful.
thing to learn. And I think that's what everybody wants, whether it's your team, whether it's your customers. They want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel that you're listening to them and supporting them.
I like that. I think that it's important for everyone to recognize that, you know, all of those things, like whenever I was building my MSP, it was always very important that the persona of the MSP matched up with the delivery of the program. And we showed who we were authentically. And I think that, to your point, authenticity goes a long way, whether it be a vendor or a partner or a customer. And to your point, like back in the earlier part of the webinar, we talked about, you know, people like to do business with people that they like. And if you're showing a strong presence in that area and you're partnering with the right partners that are doing the similar things, like it shows the type of company that you are. And ultimately, companies want to do business with you a little bit more. And I think that to that point, it's all about social selling, right, Michelle? I mean, and we could take a lot of what you do, but don't keep it quiet. I think this is the one thing that I think that we want to illustrate what we're doing, but you also have to be very vocal about it and very, evangelistic about it and be proud of what you're doing. And I think that to that point, what do you think? What's your thoughts on social selling, Michelle?
Yeah, so this is something I'm super duper passionate about. So when I left Cisco, I took on a few different roles. I became senior director for tech services during CompuCom's acquisition at Office Depot, and then I moved on to become a consultant at the JS Group. And cue the COVID pandemic, which none of us predicted, I shifted what I was doing and who I was working with from the vendors. And the vendors really wanted to make sure that the partners were seen and heard because this wasn't traditionally how they marketed themselves. So we started a social selling digital marketing program, and it was really great, and they still do it today, so encourage you to reach out. And I will be talking a little bit about this at Build IT in one of our breakout sessions as well to help partners. But I encourage everyone to do this first and foremost. And that's July 27th and 29th in New
Thanks for that.
Jersey. So make sure you get there. So the first thing that we want to think about, right, is what is your LinkedIn SSI, your social selling index? That is a really great score. And the reason you start with LinkedIn is one, it's a free tool they give you. So it's super convenient and simple. And it gives you a qualification of a scale of 100 for four key criterias. The first is what is your brand? And I'll ask everyone on the call, drop it in the chat so I can see what you're saying. What do you want to be known for? What are three words that you want to be known for? Juan, I'll ask you, what are three things that you want to be known for?
Integrity, reliability, and customer satisfaction.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? That is not far off from most of the people that say that. They say trusted advisor, integrity. They say, a thought leader, an expert. And here's what I'll say: how many of you post content 3 to 5 days a week on LinkedIn? If you're not, I think there's a few different types of people. There's one, the person that doesn't use LinkedIn at all, and that's a waste of opportunity. There's 725 million business professionals and they're on LinkedIn. That doesn't mean that you can't use Facebook groups or Twitter or Reddit or TikTok even. There's a lot of different mediums, but the principles apply. What is your brand? Your perception of you does not matter. It's what your customers think of you that does. And
Yep.
if you're silent or absent, they don't know anything about you, your company, your brand, unless other people are advocating for you through word of mouth, which they might be, but you don't want to just rely to that alone. So you want to have a good brand that depicts the qualities that you're wishing to possess, and that's your brand. The second thing it tells you is, are you connecting with the right prospects? So a lot of times I laugh because I feel like there's a circle where people don't accept new people, they don't want to accept new people, and then you just have this idea of a lot of people that just talk to people they went to school with or their family members or just a
Yep. Yep.
cycle vacuum. You need to target the people that you want to do business with, the people that are influencers in your area, the people that are going to help advocate and champion your message. If they're not your connections, and you also should be talking to them, commenting on their stuff, engaging with them, engaging with activity. And then the more they see you, the more your stuff will show up on their wall. So that's super important. The third idea is engaging with insights. So I said there's the people that don't use LinkedIn at all or any social media, and that's a missed opportunity. There's the voyeurs. That's another missed opportunity. I go on every day. I look at everything. I don't comment. I don't like. I don't share. Well, you're not getting value for your efforts. So you don't want to do that either. And then the third type of person is the person that's the lazy liker, and you know who you are. I know some of you are out there, you're like. And I said, if you wouldn't go to an amazing conference like Build IT and walk around going like, who would do that? If Juan asked me a question, an open-ended question, I'd answer him and we'd have a
Yeah.
conversation. We'd build a relationship. You can't just lazy like your way through LinkedIn. You need to have a conversation. Ask open ended questions. Rely with thoughtful feedback. If you do share something, provide your opinion and ask somebody something about
Yep.
it to really engage in a conversation. And the fourth area is really just growing your relationships. And most people are good at that. That's the honest to God part. Like, you're probably good at building a relationship. You just need to do it on a different platform. And so I tell people, create different content, think outside the box, especially during the pandemic where people craved human connection. I would tell people, record a video. You can record up to a 10-minute video on LinkedIn, and you can share your thoughts or ideas. You can have fun with it. You can do it in your office. You can go, I had somebody that scaled the mountains, the Rocky Mountains. He swore to me he would never do it. I said he wouldn't graduate my class unless he did it. So he got up the Rocky. Every week he would take his wife and children and they would scale. And he wanted to teach them about grit, about overcoming adversity, about challenges and of success and the beautiful view from the top, a little bit like Elevate. And so here's what he did. He scaled that mountain and he went to take a selfie and he thought, oh my God, Michelle will be so happy for me. I am going to record my first ever video on top of the Rocky Mountains. And he did just that. He talked about grit. He talked about relationships. He talked about building passion for his family in terms of overcoming adversity and not taking complications and failing forward.
Yep.
And this was one of the best videos. This guy started with 300 LinkedIn connections. His video went viral. There was 30,000 people that liked, commented, shared. He only had
Nice.
300 connections, and he ended up getting people reaching out to him, getting more and more connections. He became the poster child for thinking outside the box and trying something different. And people started doing it outside their skyscrapers in New York City,
Yep.
or they did it in a field of sunflowers, and they just became very creative. I had one gentleman that was surfing and he used a GoPro to tell his team how important it is to take time to relax and go enjoy themselves. And this is what he's doing on his day off, and he hopes they all do the
Nice.
same. So you can definitely have some fun with it and remain true to yourself. And I think that goes a long way to letting people in, because
Yeah.
people buy from people, not just your process, not just your technology, but you as a
Yeah.
person and what you stand for and what you believe in.
I love that. I think that, to your point, it's all about sharing, and people, the more vulnerable you are and you're sharing, the more they get to know who you really are. And a lot of times in business, we're talking about a sale or we're talking about a process or a product. I can tell you that at the deal table, a lot of times, half of that conversation wasn't even really that important. It was whether or not they liked who I was as a person and whether or not they trusted me. And you build that trust, and especially when you're, demonstrating thought leadership out on LinkedIn or wherever you're commenting on your social networks. And just, again, back to the title of this whole webinar is just elevating together, right? It's just helping everyone become a little bit stronger. And I think that a lot of times, and Michelle, we talk about this on the D&I aspect, is that there's an imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not smart enough to say that. And it's like, you need to recognize you are smart enough to say that, and you need to share that, and you need to illustrate your brand and your whole company needs to know it, right? And I just can't say enough about that, Michelle. And I thank you for bringing that up because not a lot of people know about that SSI thing.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail on the head with what you just said, and I want to just double click on that because that was so accurate. Everybody has these fears, it's what do I sound like? What do I think like? Am I good enough? Am I okay? Right? That's the question that
Yeah,
Oprah got, right? And that question is really just reframe to say you are the expert. You probably hear the same questions from your different customers over and over and over again to the point where you're like, I know what you're going to ask before you ask it. Why don't you do a pro tip series on that? What are some
exactly.
of the key things that your customers are experiencing right now, and how can you help them? And those simple things, a podcast, a webinar, a quick couple minute recordings on LinkedIn, you can drive value by sharing. And some people say, well, if I tell people, will I give my competitors secrets? I believe in spilling your candy in the lobby a little bit, because
Yeah.
if they think of you as the first person that would help them solve it, then those other people don't even matter because they're out of sight, out of mind. You
Yep.
can become the face, the thought of the person who can help guide them and provide expertise, integrity, and trusted leadership and advisement in their explanation. So that's where I would help.
I absolutely 100%. And anybody that knows me knows that's exactly how I built my MSP. And I was sharing the whole way. And I think that to your point, it builds a reputation and not only for your customers, but also it builds confidence in your customers. And when you present that content, like you're out there sharing that, it's, hey, I made the right decision. I picked the right company and I'm working with the right people. And I think that that's what, at the end of the day, is just the confirmation. And I think you should be proud of that. So everyone that's doing it, keep doing it. For those of you that aren't, start. And I will say that one last thing, Michelle, and we can stay on this topic. We should have scheduled another webinar for this one, but I want to ask you one last thing. What are some of the ways that people can connect more meaningfully and elevate together with the power of community?
Yeah. I mean, so that's honestly probably one of my biggest passions, right? I've been in technology for 17 years now, which is really, really meaningful to me because my grandparents immigrated to this country. I am the first person in my family to go to college. I'm the first person to get an MBA, and I'm the first person to work in technology. So, community is what has brought me here, what has kept me here, and what has built my relationships, which I value so tremendously in every role that I've ever had, whether we're partnering, whether I'm selling to you, whether you're selling to me, whatever the role is, that has become a basis of the community, whether it's a women's community or a diversity and equity and inclusion community or an MSP community or a peer group or an association or a technology community. All of those things, I have so many iterations of myself that I've evolved through, from becoming an engineer when I first started to everything that I've done since then in the sales and channel and marketing. And so I feel that there's these elements of people that, as I said, really find value in taking off their industry hats and talking with like-minded individuals about the things that only you understand, the struggles that only you have, then how other people can help you. And I just did a webinar this morning as well with Michael France from the Taylor Business Group, which is another great community, and we'll be helping to sponsor their event as well. And we're offering some free sponsorships there as well. So we want to make sure that we are helping as a vendor support you so you
Yeah.
can come to these amazing events and you can show up and listen and learn and ask questions, not just of Cisco, but of all of your peers, of all of your community members, because it's so valuable for you to succeed in your business. And if you succeed in your business, business, then we succeed together. So I
Yeah.
think that's really how we help one another. And there's so many amazing communities. I couldn't even begin to launch them all. I know we belong to several channel partners, MSP Summit,
Yeah.
the Robin Robbins community, CompTIA, obviously Build IT and the
Yeah.
IT
Build it
design.
live. Community of practices.
Yeah, so we want to help. As a vendor, we're blessed with a few things, which is money and resources and marketing, and that's some things that sometimes our partners need. And we want to give you money and marketing and resources and education and training and all those things that you need to succeed, not just with us, but with all of the end-to-end solution at Cisco, but also at your business. And how can we help drive that? So we are creating content, MDF content, and new offers, a radius program, all geared at managed service providers. We created our first ever journey that is a digital, scalable, self automated journey. It's hard. I say sometimes you need a bat signal to figure out who to go to in such a large company. And if you don't know, I'm here. Reach out to me. I may not have all your answers, but I sure can get you to somebody who does. And I can help be a beacon and guide you and figure out what you need to succeed. And so that's what community is. I use this analogy and I'll just share it. I always have this slide and I'll show it to you live of Canadian geese. And I ask people, do you know why they fly in the V formation? And some people know and some people don't, but I will share it with everyone today because in my mind, Canadian geese are like the other spokesperson for communities. And the reason for that is this: they fly in the V formation because the first one, as it flaps its wings, it lifts all the geese behind them up. So each goose, as it flaps its wings, is helping the geese behind them. The geese in the back honk, and they do that to cheer each other on. So they're all cheering one another on as they keep going through the winter into the summer and spring so that they can land peacefully, probably here in Florida. And then there's the idea that if one gets hurt or sick, two geese will fly back with it down to the earth and stay with it until it's better. And in my mind, that's community. We lift each other up, we cheer each other on, and we're with each other in bad times and in good because that's how we elevate.
That's awesome, Michelle. That's awesome. And I really, really appreciate that. I didn't know that story about why they did that. Now I've learned two things. I was 2 days old when I learned two things today. The love
Yeah.
story, and now here's the third thing I want to know. So let's just, I'm super excited to have you at Build It Live 2022, July 27th through 29th. The code of the day for those of you who are registering that Cisco's giving out is totally rad 200. So for those of you that want to register to come and see Michelle, help us build a community. Build It Live is all about educational content, helping MSPs to really move their businesses forward, and great speakers like Michelle and Cisco. And thank you so much. But you can't stop yet. We got to give away one more thing. That
Okay.
is the tickets for today. So we got some winners. Do you see them in the private chat, Michelle?
Oh no, I don't know. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Oh, we see three. All
We're going to
right.
give away 3 tickets today because we got a couple people that got it right. So if you want to read off those names, then these are for 2 complimentary tickets to Build It Live. Actually, now we got 3 complimentary tickets to Build It
Yes,
Live.
I love it. I
So,
love the bonus ticket as well. I'm sorry in advance if I butcher your name. Please forgive me and yell at me in person. I owe
so
you a
wait,
drink.
before you say it, what was the answer? What was the name?
Yes. So the name is in fact Buddy, and Buddy
Buddy.
is our mascot. And it was actually another fun fact. It was inspired to be like androgynous. Buddy's not a boy, but he's not a girl, but he's just Buddy. And Buddy was actually inspired by Elf, the movie, and
Nice.
so Buddy the Elf. So helping spread joy and kindness and help everybody. So that's Buddy,
And
and
what
he's
was and what
like
was
a
it dressed as?
Yes, and he is dressed as a Sherpa. So a Sherpa is like in Nepal, the person who would help somebody scale Mount Everest and climb up the mountain using their oxen and help them get from one base camp to the other. You would be have a guide who would help you on that journey to elevate. And so that's what we're saying we're doing. We're helping our partners elevate. We have our Triple Mountain Provider program, which is exclusively for MSPs. I'll say, are you a provider partner and someone's like, oh, I used to be Cisco, or I used to do business with you, or I don't know if I am, figure out if you are, because you need to be in this program. It is literally exclusively designed for managed service providers. And we have content and funding just to help you on your journey. So Cisco Provider Elevate, the provider program, and Buddy's dressed as a Sherpa so that he can help all of our partners around the world take it to the next level.
Well,
So,
who's our
without
winner?
okay, yes. So Adam Soltis, Andrew Down, and Mohammed Irfan. I hope I said
Yeah,
that right. Either way,
Mohammed,
huge
gotcha. Yeah,
congratulations.
huge congratulations to you guys.
Yay.
And congratulations to everyone that was with us today. Hopefully you had some great takeaways. Michelle, thank you so much for the content. Tiffany was so kind to put those inside of the chat. So for those of you that were looking for additional resources for today, for some of the stuff that was coming up, but it doesn't stop here. Community started. Now you guys know the passion of Michelle Ragusa-McBain, which is an amazing person, one of my greatest friends. And I truly do appreciate you joining us today. I want to say thank you, and I can't wait to see you in July.
Me too. I am so excited. I am so thrilled, Juan, and I've known you for many years, and you and I feel the same way. We're so passionate about managed services, about our community, about helping one another. And so I'm thankful for your time and the opportunity. All our listeners out there today, thanks for having fun with us and engaging and being so interactive. It really makes for a great conversation. And remember, together we elevate.
I love it. Thanks, Michelle. See you guys in July. Have a
See you
great
then.
day. Bye,
Take
guys.
care.